Can I help you with something? Yeah, you're too fat in the video. It's okay to be too fat. Hey everybody, welcome back to the K2N Online Paddle School. We're back here for episode 6 of our video log. One of the prevailing themes of the video log so far is splicing in different kind of paddling disciplines, and so this is going to be a week on stand-up paddleboard. Some of the video footage that I do have with the 360 camera on my forehead is a little wonky, so I'll try to do my best not to distort it. It either has the horizon bent, the paddle bent, or the board is bent. I took some video from a third-person view as well, which will be a little bit easier to see what's going on. My start in paddle sports stems from stand-up paddleboard. It is a discipline that I have always enjoyed, but as the years have progressed, the sports dynamic has changed a little bit, and the prevailing sports surrounding SUP have also changed dramatically. Anecdotal experience-wise, looking at K2N, we offer everything. You name it, we got it. If you want to get into a specific type of paddling discipline, we have the equipment, we have the coaching and the infrastructure to develop people into the sport. I have a stack of stand-up paddleboards that goes to my ceiling in the garage right now. Looking at our experience at K2N, it's almost like a pyramid. And the foundation of that pyramid is the Dragon boat. It is the most readily accessible boat to get into as a first timer. That progression going up the pyramid leads into the OC6, where there are less people in the boat. It is a bit more dynamic of a paddling environment, and there are more inherent skills involved, including the switch. From there, you would have team paddling vessels, usually starting with Dragon boat into OC6, you have a canoe paddler that you're cultivating, right? You have the single blade to keep track of, and there's not so much of a balance demand. Going into a two-person canoe, now with an experienced person, the experienced person can now absorb some of that balance prerequisite that a single boat would have, and that is the next layer of the pyramid. From there, you go into the OC1, commanding a rudder, steering your own vessel, being in control of the direction of the boat. These are all the skills that a single person boat now presents. Likelihood of falling and dealing with that inherent fear and apprehension also begins to reveal itself, and paddlers learn to remount and become relaxed with the water. For us, going up from OC1 is then going into the surf ski. Typically, right? Removing the AMA creates a balance demand. Having two blades is a bit even more dynamic than having the single blade, and you have these funky wing blade paddle shapes that are very hard to wield. And then for us here, right, from surf ski, then you would probably have the next rung would be stand-up paddleboard, and then the highest part of the pyramid would be like the sprint canoe that only I'm partaking in currently. And then the Olympic K1 is right there. I think I'm the only one in the club that does that on a regular basis. So for us, looking at this feeder system into individual sport, for whatever reason, stand-up paddleboard is very daunting for people to get into, right? Especially in the context of going fast. Getting on a stand-up paddleboard and just putzing around is one thing, but learning to use a tippy board, using your whole body in a fluid and dynamic way, and keeping up with the other sit-down boats that are within the club, this becomes a point of contention where people don't want to partake all of this time to learn the skill for this low reward. We could take a 75-year-old who's never been on the water before and put them in a surf ski, and they can likely keep up with somebody that has devoted an entire year to stand-up paddleboard. The vessel's hull speed, the way that you propel it, the way that you steer it, all of these things are very simplified in the other paddle disciplines. You go to SUP, it's very difficult all around, right? Standing is difficult. You have a super long lever that you have to wield. Using your entire body to complete these fluid motions, it's even more dynamic than sitting, right? Standing now opens up ankle and knee joints that you can use differently than in the seated position. And so for us, even in this context, right, people have all the resources. Any board in my garage, they're able to use. I can coach them, I can give them all the equipment, but people don't have that inner fire and drive to pursue that the same way that all of our other sports that have flourished within the club have. And so one of the reasons that I go over all that is if you are into stand-up paddleboard and you're trying to create more stand-up paddleboarders in your area, in my personal experience, it has been the most arduous road to try and pave. Creating the infrastructure and creating the dynamic for this, it takes a very special person that wants to do this, especially at the race level. It's hard to find and cultivate this person, especially when you dangle other carrots in front of them. If you give people the option of an outrigger canoe on their first day, they are going to be enthralled with that. Most people that do stand-up paddleboard, that's the first sport that they find, and they don't know the other ones exist until they're already neck deep into stand-up paddleboard. Now they don't really have an interest in something new because they're already into the hobby. But if you create this love for the sport for people and give them all of these options, very seldom do they lean into SUP and say, this is my primary discipline. Even for the K2N Online Paddle School, I don't have that much star power when it comes to stand-up paddleboard. And arguably for any of these paddle sports, I don't have a lot of star power. The K2N Online Paddle School is a worldwide reach, and SUP is the smallest demographic that seeks coaching comparatively to surf ski and outrigger canoe and these other disciplines that we talk about. So again, it's anecdotal, but my influence and my connection with stand-up paddleboard is on the lowest end comparatively to these other sports. Ultimately, I still love stand-up paddleboard and board sports in general. Next week, we're gonna do some video on prone paddling, and that'll kind of round out all the disciplines I think that we have here. That'll be 7 different things. I need to get like a marathon canoe or something and do that. The training footage today is going over some sprints and some buoy turns. I like to do this periodically just to make sure that I still have the balance and footwork demand that SUP requires. So I like to fine tune every once in a while just to make sure I'm not fumbling around on the board too much. You'll see in the footage on my left side strokes as I go back to the center of the board, I kind of bobble around a little bit, and it just shows that that knife is a little dull. Sprint speeds, I think I got the board up to about 8 miles per hour. The board that I'm using is a 14x22 Flying Fish. It's a hand-me-down from one of the team racers. It's a pretty buoyant board. It's more designed for ocean racing than it is flat water racing, but it's pretty good at scooting in the sprint context. So without further ado, we'll get to the training footage. Thank you guys so much for checking out the vlogs here. If you have any ideas or things that you want to see talked about or done in training, comment, send an email. I'm always flexible in making these more viewer-friendly for you all that are watching. Thank you all so much, and if you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to do so. We're really close to 5,000 subscribers. Thank you all so much for the support. We'll see you all next week on the next vlog. All right, welcome back to Lake Hernando, everybody. So I'm doing a little beach start with the SUP here, hopping up. I always start out these workouts with some drills, and here I'm just paddling, getting the board out on the lake, limbering up a little bit before doing some of the drills. The first drill that I'm going to do here is going to be switches. So it's one stroke and switches. Isn't that a cool view from the GoPro? See the whole body by turning. But yeah, taking one stroke, switching, trying to maintain a board speed that is relatively fast. You don't want your switches to be slow and lethargic. I think that's one of the #1 things I see with SUP racers that struggle maintaining board speed is they take eternity to switch. Like they switch and their hands drop to their side, and they like let out a sigh, and then they take their next stroke. You want your switches to be in motion with your last stroke, right? So you're maintaining your stroke rate by constantly being able to switch. If you can take one stroke, go fast, and switch, doing all that together just means that your switches are really fluid. So it's an easy skill to work on and get better at. Next drill here is a catch drill. So I'm just doing the front half of the stroke. I'm reaching way up in the front by the K2N sticker, and I'm trying to take the blade out around that beach handle on the front. And I have the speedometer, getting 5 or 6 miles an hour here, just grabbing the front half, probably the front 1/3 of the stroke, and just making that connection with the water. Really important, especially when you're doing sprints, is you want to find this connection and feeling with the water immediately at the front. A lot of people struggle to find that connection, and the board doesn't respond well unless you start with a good connection. So this is a third-person view of that catch drill, so you can see the blade is coming out of the water in front of the feet. This is just a drill. There's some people under the assumption that you should paddle like this all the time. It is a lot of effort to turn over at 60 strokes per minute and go under 6 miles an hour when you can just take a longer stroke, maintain a higher board speed, and not have to move so frantically. So that's just a drill. This is more akin to my actual stroke. So these are very slow strokes. This is a slow stroke, fast board drill. So I'm maintaining about 37 to 38 strokes per minute here. And as the paddle is being operated in the water, the board speed is about 6 miles an hour. You'll see the board speed really drop on switches just because it's a very low stroke rate. Having this long, powerful connection with the water just shows that your movement is translating to performance, which is very important. If you can make a board move 6 miles an hour and you're taking 38 strokes per minute, it means that there is a success of the movement that you're putting into the water. If you have to move fast to fight for board speed, it means that your movement's not super efficient and you're just trying to muscle through it, right? You want the ability to allow your big fluid and dynamic motion to move the board for you. You can see water shoots off the nose each stroke on this, and this is again another indicator that the speed of the board is high. When you're taking these strokes, the board is going to surge through the water and lift through the water. You can see that nose is way out of the water as well by inputting that downward pressure. So a lot of your speed and performance, your board will let you know that it's working with you. So here's the first sprint. It's only like a 100-meter sprint. I think I only sprint here for less than a minute. So going from a dead start, we have these 3 buoys here on Lake Hernando. There, I'm able to just touch 8 miles an hour. There's a few times it touches 8 miles an hour, like there. So we have this middle buoy here. So I usually paddle on one side all the way to that first 60-meter mark before switching. And then after the switch, approaching the buoy. So I don't actually turn around the buoy on the first one. I wasn't really paying attention or thinking about it too much. So I turn at the buoy. I wise up on some of the next sets and actually go around a little marker there. Doing the step back turns before getting there. Timing your footwork and timing these 180 turns is really important. Doing sprints and then forcing yourself to do the turns during these sprints allows you to get all of these things synchronized because your whole body's moving fast, you're moving kind of frantically, getting your feet oriented and so on. So able to hold 8 miles an hour, at least for a moment there. Same idea on the way back here. This will be a left-hand turn. I do a crossbow turn on this one. There's no wrong way to make it around these buoys. They're all situational. If you need to turn very tight, crossbow turns are great while you're on the back of the board. If you have a wider area that you can go around, you can take these turns all kinds of different ways. So making the way to the back of the board, then crossbow, going around, and then walking back to the nose of the board. Here's a side view of the sprint. And then doing a little slow motion. So on these short bursts, getting the boat to 8 miles an hour, you're doing a combination of turning over and trying to still get some length in the water. My blade goes a bit past my feet, holding at about 80 strokes per minute on these sprints. Another few turns here, so I have the camera angled down so you can see some of my footwork. So before I get to the buoy, I start working my way back, integrating that with my strokes, and then turning a little wide into the turn. That way I can cut the turn very tight at the buoy. Same idea on this one. I'm gonna come to the buoy just a little bit closer. My left side turns, backside strokes are a little bit weaker. I don't do the crossbow here. The amount of skill and time it takes to have your non-dominant leg back is really long. Oh, now I do a crossbow turn. But you can still complete these turns on your goofy side with just practice, and you only lose about a second or so. So here's a sprint leading into a turn from the third person view. So you can see I start moving my feet with my strokes as I go through the turn. A lot of people stop paddling, stumble to the back, and then try to do the turns, which is a major slowdown. So another one coming at the camera, working my feet back. You'll see here I bobble a little bit as I go back to the center of the board. But for the most part, this is a pretty complete workout. Some sprints, drills, and buoy turns. Thank you all so much for checking out the video today. If you're interested in getting a customized training program that's similar to the video that you just want structured for you, your goals, and your skill level, check out the K2N Online Paddle School today. Look for our training programs and send us an email. And we'll see you all next week on next week's vlog.